All right, Jocelyn, welcome everyone. We are recording just so that you all are aware. Audience members, you're welcome to turn your cameras off and your microphones off. Panelists, we have all pinned, so you should be able to see them throughout.
All right. Like I said to the last group, this is just so heartwarming. Oh, God, I just miss humans and teachers. I really do. There we go. I had to put you back on spotlight so I could be clear on who our panelists were. So welcome everybody today. We had a panel we did before this and it was wonderful and lovely and everybody got to share some of the strategies that they've been working on throughout the school year. We created a resource document so you can find this later. And finally, it'll be recorded. So in case you just can't get enough of this and you want to watch it later on your own time, here it is. Hold on. Did I let that person in, Jamie?
I did. I got it.
Oh, you did great. All right. Just want to make sure.
I'm on it.
Not happening. All right. So what we'll do is we're going to begin. And I had the question in the chat before. Let me just make sure that everybody can see it. Our panelists are going to begin talking about structures. Specifically, the question is, describe the way that they have structured their virtual classroom. The next one will be about strategies, and in this case, is the structure.
Do we want to
is there? Oh, shoot! I just was so excited to get to the content. I was like, let's skip it. I know. Let's have our panelists, and you all have to share the color that you're bringing to the space today. So everybody's to share the color that defines the essence of their soul today. Who would like to begin? Sagan, thank you, Sagan.
Hey everybody, my name is Sagan Pizengrilli. I teach 7th grade language arts and reading at Wright Middle School. And my color, I said, was blue, but not the sad kind of blue, like happy, joyous, bright blue. I think I'm inspired by the sky.
Outstanding. Fanique, you're next.
Hey, I'm Fanique. I teach at Sherman 6th grade with Leah, actually. And the color that I'm bringing in is yellow, and that's because it's the color of my sweatshirt.
Outstanding. Leah.
Hi, I'm Leah Rodriguez. I am a cross-categorical special education teacher at Sherman, and I co-teach with Fanique, 6th grade ELA and social studies.
Outstanding. Susan.
Hi, I'm also a cross-categorical teacher at O'Keefe Middle School. I co-teach with Heidi Krasinski, who's up there too. I co-teach math and science, and I teach all different interventions. Oh, and
Perfect. Thanks, Susan.
Orange.
Oh, yeah, orange. Oh, Leah. You skipped it again, Leah.
You know, following simple one-step directions, clearly I need some help with that. I said purple, just like the chill, kind of relaxed purple.
Outstanding. All right, Heidi, close this out.
Heidi Krasinski, 8th grade math and science at O'Keefe with Susan. And my color is yellow because I'm leaving this weekend and getting out of this cold snow and cold weather.
Perfect timing. So thank you all. Yeah, that was terrible developmental designs on my part to just like skip through introductions. I just couldn't wait to get to the content. Okay, I've slowed down a little bit. In the chat, what these panelists will get to discuss right now is describe the way that they've structured their virtual classroom to promote engagement. Who is so excited to begin? I'll know because you'll wave at me furiously. That was furious waving by Heidi. All right. And then just so you know, Sagan, you'll go next, just so you've got prep. All right, Heidi, how have you done this?
Yeah, and Susan and I, since we co-teach, you'll probably hear us kind of go back and forth, and we'll add and chime in. So the way we've structured our virtual classroom is that it's super consistent. So every Monday, kids come in and they know we're going to do a wow pow chow. Like, what's something really good from your weekend? What's whatever. And then they know, like, coming into math class, like, hey, we're going to do a Desmos. The first slide is always going to be like, what is it? Like, what is our goal today? And then we kind of go from there. So keeping that consistent, the kids know, right? Like coming in on Thursdays, they know we're going to do some high school stuff. So they come with their high school questions prepared. Like, hey, I got this question. Like, how do I join my swim team? So I think that consistency really brings those students in to have them connect. Susan, you want to add to that?
I was going to say, And within that consistency, we have flexibility too. And it's that balance of the two. Like when you come into any of our classes, advisory, math, science, there's always a soft landing. And I feel like on our 8th grade team in general, we're really conscious of keeping that soft landing for the first at least 5 minutes. It's kind of a, if you're co-teaching, we have a banter going, hey, what'd you have for lunch? Hey, Tank, how you doing? Do you have a sandwich again today? Like, it's kind of a people are trickling in, like if we were standing at our classroom door, right? When we're just all checking in and there's kind of just little conversations. Kids use our chat a lot and often private chat us in the beginning to ask what's going on, kids who need the little preview. So that soft landing is huge, I think. And then also we drop our link to our work in the chat. We right now we just take away that barrier of how do I get to that? Where is that? We drop the link in the chat for every class. And we also learned very quickly that every time new kids come in, you got to redrop the link in the chat because it's not there when they just get there. So sometimes it's one of us, right? One of us is kind of taking the lead. Usually it's Krasinski for math and I'm dropping that link in the chat and then direct messaging that kid saying, hey, glad you're here.
Perfect. And I tried to put your first names together to do like a meld and it doesn't work, but your last names, you can be Marzinski. Is that like together? Okay. So then you two can be Marzinski. And so Marzinski is one and now it will be Sagan. Are you okay with that, Marzinski?
Yes. Perfect.
Outstanding. Thank you both. All right, Sagan.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. And something that I do, we only see our classes twice a week for an hour each time. So
Hold on 1 second, Sagan. Since we are recording, your audio is gone robot.
Here we go. I got it.
And it's,
all right.
I figured, your voice is important and we want to make sure we can all hear it.
Is that better?
Keep going. I think it is.
Awesome. So one thing that I use every single day when kids enter is some sort of interactivity through Nearpod. So kids know that they log in and they log into a system called Nearpod where you're able to use, it's a system that takes over their computer, kind of like Pear Deck, where they log in and then are able to immediately answer questions, post to a chat board. Sometimes I'll have a video for them to watch, whatever is relevant to the day, but it's usually more like a team building thing. So sometimes it's related to the content of what we're going to do, but often it's just, they love would you rathers. We love to debate the would you rathers and everything like that. So that's something that they expect when they enter, like click the Nearpod link, go in there. I also like it for the link issue. Nearpod takes over the computer and then all the links are in there for them. So if you want to reference multiple things through a lesson, all the links are in there. They just click it, it pulls it up on their own computer. So it's really handy. And then you can also post the entire thing to your Google Classroom afterwards. So they have all those links in one place. And for students who miss class, it's right there for them. So that's one structure that has really helped with some of those logistical where you lose kids. And I feel like that has really helped make everything more accessible. Plus more fun. You can see kids' responses. There are games in it. It's enjoyable. Another thing that I do in terms of structure is I put kids in small kind of teams. So groups of 4 or 5 that if it's not an individual entrance activity, it's a group entrance activity. And so they go into breakout rooms and maybe it's like, list these 20 things. If you were stranded on an island, which top 10 would you pick as a group and why? And then we do a big share back, something like that, just to get them going, trying to really build community as a structure for engagement as we move on. And then with those groups as well, those transfer over to their groups later when it's a more high-risk academic task. So they've done something that is low risk and fun with that group, and then later it is their same group for a higher level activity. And they keep those for weeks at a time so they can actually build a relationship and feel more comfortable in that small group. So I think those are 2 of the bigger kind of systems that I put in place, but I think really leaning on relationship building and how to just enter with that every single day, for sure.
Outstanding. Thank you, Sagan. And just as a reminder, I know, Jamie, you're taking notes too, right, as this is going?
Oops, yes, I am doing my best.
Okay.
If there's any
So-
audience member that wants to be, like loves taking notes, we did have one panelist last time that started doing that and shared it with me, and I'll add to it as I'm rewatching this. So both.
Okay. Yeah. So there's so much. And again, I mean, my strength is high school, but all the things you all are saying, I'm like, oh, I can't take it all in. Sagan, you just said two things I've never heard of. So for me, it'd be really helpful to have that on a document somewhere. All right, Fanique and Leah, is it easy for you two to talk together, or do you want to talk separately? Like whatever. All right, well, Fanique, you're next, so you get the shine.
All right. I think we're just gonna talk together because we teach together. I think it's the easiest. So when it comes to structuring the classroom, I think what Heidi said is what we also do. Like the consistency is key. So when students come in, they know, hey, we're gonna join a pair deck. And if we aren't doing a pair deck, they're like, what is happening? Right. So joining a pair deck, we always started off with like, what is the national day? And then that goes into a thought question that everybody can build off. So if today is National Pancake Day, okay, tell us what type of toppings you like on your pancakes, right? Or something random. So they know they're coming in with some type of question to start us off. I'm gonna throw it to Leah now.
Yeah, and I think that also provides that predictability, which helps kids feel calm, safe, they're in the learning environment.
Hold on.
It's
Happy.
Robot, yep.
Okay, is that better now? It was okay when we did our check earlier.
I know.
Okay, so I was just saying, yes, the consistency is important for providing the predictability so that kids feel calm and safeness of the learning environment. We also have movement breaks throughout.
I got you, Leah, because your computer just, doing what it do. So when the movement breaks come, which is where she was going, we also play a song. And that's super engaging because we have students actually pick the song. So we have a document, students put your song in and whatever is random. February, they're not picking it because we're spotlighting Black history. So it's going through like the contributions of African Americans in music, but they usually get to pick it. And then they know at the end, of the class, there will be an exit ticket. So that also is super engaging as well. And then if it's a Friday, some things that they can always expect is like, we know this one song will play every single Friday. And Ms. Hill and Ms. Rodriguez will love it. We know that we may do a Kahoot. So definitely the consistency is everything for us.
Outstanding, Fanique. Way to help out a friend. Leah, I do know on the up caret that's by your mute button. I don't even know if it's an up caret, whatever.
Oh, I switched. Is it any better now or no?
It is. Look at you.
Okay, we'll take it for now. All right.
Did I miss anything?
No, you covered it. It was great. Thank you.
So we're doing great on time. So I want to offer, since we're a little bit smaller group, since we've got pairs of humans that are now like one unit, is there anything anyone heard that you want to add to this? Like you're like, oh, I forgot to say this as a structure. Marzinski, that's fun.
No, one thing I was just going to add was that we talked about like the first like 5-10 minutes being fun and chill. And one of our other team teachers today was like, oh, we play like, let's roast the teacher for 10 minutes. And the kids will just like come at her with all of these things. And so all the teachers kind of did it today. And she's like, see, my strategy totally works. Like you guys had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah. I think making fun of the teacher is super entertaining for most of our middle schoolers. It happens naturally in our, especially advisory, just like giving us little jabs and giving us a hard time, and we roll with it. It's appropriate usually, but yeah, we just have a lot of fun making fun of ourselves. Strategies though, strategy wise, I think someone else talked about breakout rooms. And we start off with whole group learning, and then we end up going into breakouts. And sometimes that means that everyone has support in there. Sometimes we break out smaller and Heidi and I bop around. And we're always like, you never know when we're gonna show up, surprise. And it really works. It's like having tables in a classroom. And sometimes those groupings are random, and sometimes we put them together with specific groups of kids in mind, trying to get people talking.
All right, so actually, hold on. I'm sorry, I got who was speaking just now and I totally cut you off. Sagan, was that you? I'm so sorry. Were you gonna go into strategies to build? Were you gonna?
I was not. I was going to say one more thing about structure.
Do it, please, thank you.
Yeah, so this is more school-wide, so it's not necessarily in my like ELA class. But when we have our virtual mentor time, so we have like a time where we meet with a small group of kids, 10 or under every single day, just to check in, like, how are you doing? It's more of a like, just to help them get organized, honestly, most of the time. But something that I do in that group a lot is we will play all sorts of like different online games. So I'd be happy to share some out that are really fun to do collectively, because I think as a system, that's like pretty high motivator. Like, oh, if we've got all of our stuff together, we're really working, right? We've got all this time for these games. Not saying you always have time for those, but a ton that we've found and kind of put together on a doc. So I'd be happy to share that out.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna hop into the next question. And Susan, you actually did a really good job of bringing us to this, which is specific strategies. So you mentioned this can build connection, that students know that, you know, you care enough that you're going to hop into Zooms and you've set up expectations for them. It might not be that you're coming in to be like, show me all your work, but it could just be like, how y'all doing? So in this case, panelists get to talk about a specific strategy that they use to build connection, community, and relationships with students in the classroom. And I would like to start, if it's okay, with Leah and Fanique.
Leah, you want to go?
I'll share our screen if that's okay. Okay. We put together just a little slideshow. We also dropped it in the note sheet as well. First and foremost, we just want to give a disclaimer, right? That like virtual learning is tough. And we don't have all the answers. So these are just some things that work from time to time. They don't work all the time. But we think that it helps make our classroom more engaging. We definitely try new things. We reflect, we adjust, we try to just keep trying new things until we find something that works for the time being. Oh no, again.
You're a little choppy, just a little bit.
You just take over. How about that?
I got you. You want to just click through them for me?
Yeah, I'll just click.
So as somebody said, we always bring the energy. Not right now because there's no students in front of us, so we're kind of laid back. But y'all see us at 9 o'clock in the morning, and whoa, it's a party. So we make jokes. We ask them about their lives. We push them to talk. We know most of them are still in the bed, so we're like, yo, get up, stretch. Go wash your face. We have our musical breaks. All these things y'all can see that are just a bit. And then if we go to the next slide. Some of the things we do for relationships, which have already been said, are like we do one-on-one weekly check-ins. We do the breakout rooms, whether they're one-on-one or small groups. We allow them for unstructured time so they can connect as a classroom to build that community, since virtual learning is definitely different. We also included parents on this, so parents are super important with building relationships. So we contact them either weekly or bi-weekly through talk text. We even started sending mail. We were like, okay, we about to just handwrite, give y'all some snail mail. We have extra sessions either on Wednesdays or Sundays just to continue that relationship. We go into the community. Leah has gone into so many community centers to help students where they're at, which has been so beneficial with getting them to come to class and to be present. We also are starting on Monday, check us out, doing some evening read alouds, which many students are super excited about. And we think just going that extra little step really helps with them wanting to come back and feeling connected to us, even though we're virtual. So other things we do for connection have already been said, but small groups, we have them peer review each other's work. Shout out to literacy classes. It really helps. Our question of the day, we leave the chat open so students can give their opinions about how they feel, and they surely will give you an opinion in middle school. They watch each other's flip grids. They play Kahoots community centers. They play Mafia in class debates, and then they also play Among Us on some of the time. So those are definitely some things we do for relationships and building connections and incentives. we also give those too. And I think yeah, the doc there is linked in, and it shows like a bunch of incentives that we've given students just to keep them engaged and actually getting them to want to do stuff. So there's a variety of things. Please page through it. Our students really like them. We've also sent incentives in the mail that they also like too. So there's that. Leah, did I miss anything?
I'm afraid to talk. I don't think so. You did a great job. I would just say one quick thing. Also using the chat as kids pop in, like I'll private message them while Fanique's leading, just being like, hey, good morning, glad you're here. How you doing? Just things like that. So there's lots of work that goes on when you team teach behind the scenes.
Yeah, we also use the students as teachers, right? So we don't call them like students, we call them student teachers. So they will usually drop links in the chat. They'll usually give students the extra pair deck. They'll tell students where to go find it. So having them assist, or I may be teaching and Leah's direct messaging somebody and they're like, Miss Hill said, these are the instructions. And so that's also super helpful.
Outstanding, thank you. And I think I saw that you dropped that somewhere for everyone to access. You put it in the great. Outstanding. I'm gonna go the other way. Sagan, talk to us about strategies for building community and relationships.
Awesome. Yeah. A lot of the things that I was going to say were on their list. So I'm just doing some little quick moving around. One thing that I will say is we have a bunch of clubs at our school. So it's not necessarily my classroom, but a lot of after school clubs that students engage in. I thought of that because of Among Us. I lead a video game club that kids are really into. We've got all sorts of them, cooking club, tons every day. And those are awesome because then we're building those relationships outside of academics. And it has definitely helped some kids in my classes come more regularly and participate more regularly because they know me from video game club. So that's been really helpful. I have also, as an ELA teacher, students who are having trouble with access, just really tried to like get them physical books, make sure I visit their houses, give them things that they don't have access to. Because sometimes I'm finding that like students who are not engaged, or we're thinking they're not engaged and we're talking about engagement, right? A lot of times it's some big barrier that they might not want to talk about or they have and it hasn't been fixed. So I think really using those one-on-one conversations to try to get at those barriers and help fix them. Another thing that I use a lot is students working together. Everything, I'm like, nothing really needs to be individual. So students are always working together on things. We just did so our subjects are separated out. Teachers don't teach two subjects at our school, you just teach one, but I paired with our social studies teacher. They did a big presidential campaign project that we saw really high engagement in for students to create with a partner, present, use art, make art, music, poetry, anything. And so that I think multimedia also really helped kind of re-engage some of them. Nearpod was one thing that I talked about. I heard you mention, I think Kahoot, but things like that, GimKit, anything where there's like, my students love competition, which is weird because although I'm a competitive person, I don't like it in education, but I've been using it more than ever before, just as like a fun way to get kids to kind of get some of that fun banter that we don't see as much in the online environment that is really present in a physical classroom and is a little harder to create in virtual. The other thing that I do is right when students enter, I usually have something that they have to do that gets their camera on. So I actually have most students have their camera on for the whole class. And that really helps with just that relationship building and that engagement in that way. So we can see faces. And I just really reiterate that a lot. So.
Hey, can I jump in and ask a quick follow-up? What is it that you do that they have to put their camera on?
Things like ranking things with your fingers or playing games that have to do with facial expressions, or we'll do like Pictionary drawing games. So then they're getting them up there, but kind of group Pictionary. So everybody's drawing at once and then we put them up. Trying to think, I just sometimes come up with things like, hey, show me this. We've done games where it's like, go find anything in your house. It doesn't matter what it is that you can make into a crown and come back, put it on your head, cameras on, and everyone shows it. And it's kind of like a funny thing, you know, people are bringing like their cats or a pencil and it just makes people laugh. So I think also being obviously aware that like some kids are like, I don't feel comfortable putting my camera on for whatever reason, and that's also okay too. Nobody's forced, and we have open lines of communication about that. But just trying to help some of them get over that cusp of how to, it's okay to turn it on. You know, it's like once one kid turns it on, then usually way more do. And so it's just like, we're all just going to rip the Band-Aid off right away and get the camera on as much as we can. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Sagan. Jamie, did you have any more follow-ups?
I've got 100 of them, but I'll
I
hold
bet you
for
do.
now. I will just offer for anybody that joined late, we do have a link to a document here that we'll continue to add to, but as audience members, you all have a lot of wisdom as well. So if there are things that you think would be beneficial for the group to share in there, you're welcome to pop those in there.
Awesome. All right, Heidi and Susan.
You're muted, Susan.
That happens 10 times a day. It's one of the inside jokes in our classrooms. Ms. Martin, you're muted. Lots of yes ands with Sagan, right? Like definitely like little tricks to get the camera on. Like never have I ever, like you don't have to have your head in there, right? Start with something like that, or like a scavenger hunt. Like what can you find in your house? You have 30 seconds, something plastic, something metal, go. And then kids are holding that up. And like you said, like once you break through and the camera's on, some kids will keep it on because it's just that breakthrough moment. Heidi?
One of our big ones is you greet every single person that comes into your room, right? Like when we're in our classroom, we're like, hey, what's up? So like when they come into Zoom, you're like, hey, Tommy, you're in the house. What's up? Like, how you doing today? Right? And you just break that ice right away. Some kids don't want to be recognized and we kind of know who they are and you can just put it in the chat. I think Leah was the one that mentioned that like being a tag team, it's easy for like one of us to watch the chat and kind of like talk about it and one of us to do the other things, right? And Susan and I are really strong at that, but there are times that I'm by myself when she's in the building, right? And so like I have to keep up with that. So it is a lot, right? I understand both sides. I love team teaching because it definitely, you can kind of banter with each other as well. So it kind of keeps like the normalcy. But so I know what it's like. It's overwhelming to be like, I have to watch the chat, but for us, the chat's where it's at. Like kids are blowing up the chat. Not only do they want to connect with us, which some kids, I truly don't know if we would be hearing their voice, right? Like some just want to stay in their shy little bubble and some will private, like those same kids are private chatting me because they know it's just going directly to me, right? Like they're not having to put themselves out in front of everybody. But then the kids also want to connect with each other. They want to be like, hey, oh my gosh, I totally did so well in Fortnite last night. What happened to you, Tommy? Right? And they can drop, hey, like I want to play. What's your gaming name or whatever it's called, right? And have those conversations.
We let that fly. We let that go. Maybe a little more than others. Once in a while, we might stop the chat. But we let some of that play out because we feel like some of that would be going on in our classroom. And we're comfortable in our in-person classroom. We let a certain level of banter happen while you're working. Some of that might be because we're math, right? So you can sit there and do some math and have a conversation, a little different than if you're writing in Melcon. I don't know. Yeah.
Banter always.
It's fun. I mean, it is fun, right? And like, yeah, we totally get off topic all the time, but the kids have said like, this is why I come to class. Like someone yesterday was like, there's no, like, what are we doing this class? And we're like, we just hang out. Like, what's up? And he's like, this is my favorite class, right? And like, there are kids that are totally like, not putting their cameras on in other classrooms and they're on for us because they can be their true authentic self, right? And we accept that and we comment on that. And so for us, I think it's building that relationship with them and hearing their voice and being able to hear their voice, even if their camera's not on and even if they aren't using the chat, right? Like what games are we playing to get kids to come out of their shell and say like, hey, yeah, this is my favorite movie. And then down the line, we keep commenting like, hey, don't forget Susan's favorite movie is so-and-so. Did you know they're making a third one? And that kid will come back and chime in and be like, oh my gosh, you remember my favorite movie? That's really cool. Right. And so it's being able to hear their voice without actually hearing their voice. Because I mean, like Sagan really focus, like you have cameras on, and us, like that's not our biggest thing. Like we want our kids to come and we hear them even if their camera's not on. So it works
And
both
Leonard,
ways.
you two talked about like you're not afraid about things going off topic, right? And about things kind of going off tangentially. And I think we found that too, like letting that fly, knowing when to rein it back in, but letting the kids kind of guide you.
Right. Just like you would if you were in person, right? Like let them be kids, let them have conversations. They got to connect to each other too.
Well, I think that I think it was, I don't remember who mentioned it, but the idea of unstructured time, I think that's something that is not as natural in the virtual environment. So yeah, making sure that you still make it a part of it, right? Those conversations that you let go on forever, or sometimes I'm just like, we're just going to chat for a while, or you're putting kids in breakout rooms with some silly activity where I'm like, I don't care if they don't even start the activity. If they just chat with each other, that's great. So that they have these structures maybe to fall back on, but that if it's really unstructured, that it's great, because we know that's how they'll build relationships, and eventually they're going to be in the building at some point, maybe in their lives. And so I think about seventh graders, or I can't imagine like sixth grade, right? Like they haven't even been in the building together yet, or my seventh graders say all the time, like we barely know each other, like, or beforehand. So really trying to work on that before anything else. Yeah.
All right, thank you all. I had to take my earbuds out. I've been on so many calls today and my batteries died. I hope I might go robot, Leah, so I'm gonna leave it up to you. If I start sounding crazy, you just like wave at me furiously. All right, so we've talked about structure, we've given strategies, and then this last question that we'll offer to the panel is, it's like, what have you learned? What advice, what have you learned since the beginning of this whole debacle that we are in? And I was going to offer it up to Sagan to start and then go backwards to Heidi and Susan. Sagan, are you cool with that? All right. So Sagan, what have you learned since the start of all this stuff?
The thing that came to mind right away is that less is more. I think in the beginning, I tried to just prep a ton and have so much stuff. And then I think as I went on, I was like, oh, this smaller activity that I did, or this less structured thing that I did with structures, right, were actually the most engaging things for students. Or I really cut back on the amounts. I mean, I have this hard balance. I'm an ELA teacher. I want my students to write and read. And I don't really care what they write and read, but I want them writing and reading. And I think I really had to scale back, right, the amounts that they write and read, and really focus on that like quality of what they write and read and how they do it. And recognizing like all that they're putting into just making that much happen. Not lowering expectations, but saying like, if I give you 1 million tasks a day, you're not going to do any of them well. So let's give you way fewer. And I think I do that better in person. And I don't know why when we switched over, I felt like I threw that out the window. Another thing I think I realized was the importance of really that family follow-up, which I know is true all the time. But I think in this environment, I've built some stronger relationships with some families than I maybe would have had in person, just because of the amount of communication that had to happen. And some of those relationships have been the key to helping those students engage and come. So really that family connection. I guess that's I guess most of those are relearning, but I think those two things. And then my last one would probably just be, have as many adults as you can at any point. So I've got like tutors who come in, I've got practicum students, I've got CC teachers in only like one of my classes, a couple. But anytime there's more adults, right, just really thinking about how I use them. Right? Like how we really use our time. If we've got 5 of us, let's not have one person teaching and the other 4 sitting there, right? Like how do we break up and move around and utilize the adults to the best of our abilities, so that not only we use them as best we can, but also kids can build relationships with more adults, which is always beneficial.
Awesome. Thank you, Sagan. All right, Heidi and Susan.
How do you go?
I'm going to agree with what Sagan said for the most part, right? Like some other things I wanted to add in is keep it fun, keep it lighthearted, right? Like laugh at yourself. I mean, tech, we're not all fantastic humans at navigating this tech. So when something fails, like For us, it's just been like, we'll get there. Like, let's just chat and hang out until I figure this out, right? And then also with connecting with the families, we all assume like, okay, they're at home with their families, they know what the kid's doing, right? But being 8th grade, most of the time, the kid's in their bedroom by themselves, like maybe doing schooling, maybe not. So when I do reach out, parents are like, oh my gosh, thank you. My teenager just says, oh yeah, we learned nothing today, or oh yeah, I'm good, I did all my work, right? Even if they're lying, the family doesn't know. So still hearing from us is still that parent and home connection for us. So you want to add to that, Susan?
Yeah, I think what I underline what Sagan said about just family connection, like it's what we know, it's what we do already when we're in person, but now more than ever, and using multiple ways of reaching out. I think as CC teachers, that's something that's more on our plate. But I use Google Text all the time. Like I use Google Voice constantly during class, throughout class, just to be like, hey, your girl's not in class right now. Will you just like go knock on her door? You know, just little, so it's not shaming. It's not anything. It's more like just a little reminder, because we all know during virtual learning, the day kind of, it all blends together, and we're not like walking from lunch with our friends to class. Like you can get lost during your day, and sometimes you need a little knock. So I text my students, I text families throughout the day. And I think that's just something that's always there, but even a little bit more right now. I also think more than ever, being vulnerable with kids works. Showing them you're messy, showing them your imperfections. It's always a strategy I use as a case manager and as a co-teacher, but I think right now, letting them hear my dog's barking and the fact that it's annoying to me, and they're like, oh my gosh, Ms. Martin, you have to let Hugo out again? Didn't he pull out the garbage yesterday? I'm like, yeah, all the coffee grounds, you know. So they hear my personal stories. They also hear me giving my daughter a hard time if she's like laying in bed eating Cool Ranch Doritos at 9 o'clock. I'll be like, y'all, I have to go tell Freya to get up and out of bed. She's getting crumbs everywhere and she needs to like sit up to pay attention. I think she's falling asleep, and they laugh. Freya doesn't always laugh, but I'm just like using the imperfections in my world. They know what I have for breakfast, you know? They know when I had cold pizza. They're like, Ms. Martin, you really shouldn't do that. It gave you a stomachache last time. So the more we show kind of the crazy and the are human, the more they'll share that with us too, I found.
Outstanding. Thank you. I had a lot of laughing there. And I think you both were in my home downstairs in my 8th grader's bedroom. I think you somehow knew that. That was weird. It's like you described my family. Leah and Fanique, take us home.
Leah, I'll let you go first.
All right, I'm gonna try again. How am I now? Am I okay? Okay. For me, the biggest thing I learned was just to relax and chill. Like everything's gonna be okay. Nothing is a big deal, even though it may seem like it is at the time. And that's hard for me. I am totally a person who thrives when I know what to expect, and having like some control and structure, right? And this has really forced me to just get out of my comfort zone a little bit. And so similar to what other people have shared is just being real about that, and being vulnerable. And like technology fails all the time in our classroom. And we just go with the flow, right? Like if we don't get through the lesson, we'll figure it out tomorrow. It's not a big deal. And so just remembering that at the end of the day, we're all human, right? And so this time that we are living in is going to be historic. We'll all look back on it someday. And how do we want to be remembered? And for me, I just want it to be remembered as like, we loved each other, right? At the end of the day. Our students felt the love, we felt the love with each other. I think that's what's the most powerful thing.
Well, Leah, I really feel like we're really co-teachers, because that was, you took what I was going to say, but did different words. So it sounded really nice. But I was definitely going to say chill. Like we are in a pandemic. Just chill. It will be okay. Everything will be fine. And so that's definitely what I've learned. The simplicity, right? Not trying to, put a whole 75-minute ELA class into a 30-minute block, because it just doesn't work. I've also learned that virtual learning really disenfranchises our students who are differently abled, right? So really trying to figure out what new types of ways can we go to engage those students specifically, right? So we've called them, just cracked jokes with them, and really tried to like get them back, because they're like, wow, like this is like, not the best, scenario right now. So definitely thinking about, hey, what can we do to definitely reach out to those students as well. Outside of that, be yourself. I feel like my students come to our class because we're just who we are, and that's good enough for them.
Outstanding.
Hey,
My
can
goodness,
I
I would
drop
have given
a follow-up?
I would have
on
given
there?
anything to have had any one of you as an educator in my middle school years, for the love. Yeah, so big shout out. Thank you all. We'll shout out again at the end here, but from our audience, is there any follow-up question you want to do? Any burning
Jocelyn, I'm going to
thing?
throw one in quick while people are thinking.
Burning question?
Are you not, Jocelyn? Hello. All right.
Am I here?
Microphone issues. Okay. Fanique, hey, you talked about in your first round about having student assistants. Can you talk a little bit more about what that looks like, what exactly you're having them doing, and how you set that up? Because that sounds really awesome.
Yeah, my student teachers, they're fantastic, right? So all of my students are student teachers in their own right, because I tell them as much as they learn from me, I also learn from them. And so we usually ask them questions. Hey, what was the 369th Infantry? And I'll be like, yeah, I don't know what happened. And so they'll be like, I'll go look it up. And so we have one student who goes and looks it up. And so they really take that ownership of each other. Or if we're talking about gender pronouns and we're trying to get somewhere with it, and one student may drop in, back in 1960 this happened. I'm like, well, thank you for that, bud. Or some students even lead the class in the morning. So when we're welcoming and Leah and I just, we don't got the energy just yet, students will hop in and say, good morning, everybody. And it's a really good just to have them teaching alongside of us. Or if we miss anything, they'll definitely step up and say, hey, Ms. Hill, you forgot this, or this and this. So definitely them just like taking ownership of the classroom and of their learning alongside of us. And so we always call them what they are, which is teachers, which is funny because I actually have a student teacher. And so we're like, hey, on the same level now.
That's outstanding. Leah, anything you wanted to add to that?
I think the only other piece I would add is that we also let the students be host or co-host and actually model and show how to do things. So if we're going to be starting an assignment, right, like they'll actually go into the Google Classroom and show the whole class instead of having us do it. So again, putting the ownership and back on the students. Thanks
for adding that. They love being co-hosts. They're like, oh, we have power. And I'm like, I'm about to take the power in 5 minutes. So let's do this.
My students love to screen share. So yeah, they're always screen sharing for us and for me. Yeah, there you go, Susie. Yeah, I feel like, but I do think they do feel like it's this, not only is it just kind of fun, but it is like this, like, oh, I have like a little power. My teacher trusts me. And it's like an easy way to share that. I was thinking of something too. I agree with the idea of like the full-time student teachers. And also when students are going into groups, we have a bunch of different ways to always set up like, hey, who's gonna be your facilitator for now, or who's gonna be your leader for now. And I used to kind of help them set those up, and then they really advocated for like, Ms. Pizzingrilli, can we just set them up ourselves and talk about it when we get in the group? And I'm like, of course, I just wanted to help you out. So I think even just a reminder to always, like, anytime you can give them the choice is, really powerful.
Excellent. Anything else? Any other clarifying questions, comments? Anything from the audience? Any shout outs? Any love? You got some love, Leah and Fanique. As you should, as you all should. All right, well, we will go away from here. I do want to emphasize that I agree with these comments coming through inspirationally. I needed this today too, and I'm not a classroom teacher, so I'm hopeful that everyone was able to connect. I love seeing the faces, my goodness.
Let me do a quick couple of logistic things. We're gonna do a group bit of love here. So we'll invite you in a moment to turn on your microphones, and we'll do some group love. Before then, I did, and maybe Jocelyn, you can re-share, is the document that has some resources in it. Audience members, if you have any resources you want to share, please drop those in there. I'm going to download this. If the technology sources are all in my favor, we'll upload this into a YouTube, and I will share this out with everybody. It will likely be probably by Friday. I will also add in any of the resources from our panelists, from our audience, and send those out. And you're welcome to share those and rewatch them, because wow, today I have to say, like, I learned a ton. It was so exciting to see you. I wish that I were a student in your classroom. It's great. And I think a lot of people who, I don't, audience, you can chime in as well, but just, I think this was really helpful, much better than me trying to give a session on classroom engagement. So I am most thankful for that. Does anybody have any last questions before we do some group love?
Did
All
anybody,
right.
I just gotta ask, did anybody find any Black History Month engaging like resources to use with students? All the like Kahoots and stuff that I found were like, ask this history question that students wouldn't know. And that's what I oftentimes feel like Kahoots are, is like just random questions that they don't have a very good ability. So if anybody has any of those resources, I would like to hear about.
Excellent.
Yeah. In my class, we do a spotlight for each month. So we have every single day, there's a Black History spotlight, and it's almost like not Jeopardy, but like a multiple choice thing where like, hey, who do you think did this? And I have a slide deck for that I can put in the resource doc, as well as like a history of not hip hop, but a history of African American music. But it's not like, it's super informational if you want that aspect of it. Otherwise, it just has like music that students can listen to, which is also engaging as well.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, let's end with some love. First and foremost, I get credit for doing nothing. I am here. This was all Jamie's brainchild. I support We Think Together, but otherwise all the behind the scenes stuff was Jamie. So love to Jamie for this. Thank you for this space.
Well, and let's give a shout out, make some noise for our panelists here, and some emojis. Big love today. Thank you all so much. Absolutely. Heidi, have a great time in Nashville, and thank you to each of our panelists. You're incredible. So thank you so much.
All right. Humbling. Take care, y'all.
Heidi, where did Heidi go? Oh, she left already.
Oh, she peaced out.
Oh, well. Hey, thanks for this. It was energizing, inspirational, everything I needed to hear.
Hold on, I gotta stop recording.